Interrogators are trained to break suspects, but their brains accidentally fall for them instead, and it destroys the investigation. This isn't a flaw in the system. This is the system working exactly as designed, just pointed in the wrong direction. And there's one documented case that proves it so completely, it changed how the FBI trains its agents. We'll get there. First, let's talk about what actually happens inside a confession room. Most people assume the suspect is the one being psychologically manipulated. They're partially right, but the manipulation flows both ways, and the interrogator rarely sees it coming. When a trained interrogator enters a room, they deploy empathy as a tool. They mirror body language. They soften their voice. They lean in. They listen like no one ever has. This is deliberate. It's called rapport building, and it works. Suspects open up. Guard drop. Truth spills out. But here's what the training manuals don't tell you. The moment genuine empathy enters that room, the interrogator's own brain starts doing something it was never supposed to do. It starts bonding. Neuroscientists call the mechanism mirror neuron activation combined with oxytocin release. But you can just call it what it is, the brain deciding this person matters. And once your brain decides someone matters, it will quietly, invisibly, start working to protect them. Here's the part that should unsettle you. The suspect confesses not because they were broken, but because the interrogator's empathy literally hijacked their threat detection system. The suspect's amygdala, the part of the brain that fires during fear and danger, quiets down in the presence of genuine warmth. The perceived threat dissolves. And when the threat dissolves, so does the wall around the truth. That's why confessions happen at all. Not torture, not sleep deprivation. Warmth, perceived safety. The oldest manipulation in human history. But here's where it gets worse. That same neurological mechanism firing in the suspect, it fires in the interrogator too. They've spent hours, sometimes days, listening to this person's childhood, their fears, their shame, the moment it all fell apart for them. The interrogator has heard things no one else has ever heard. And the human brain is not wired to absorb that level of intimacy and stay neutral. It's not possible. Psychologists call what happens next investigator drift. The interrogator stops seeing the suspect as a subject and starts experiencing something closer to protectiveness. They begin unconsciously softening their reports, emphasizing mitigating factors, downplaying evidence, not lying but tilting, just slightly, just enough. And because this happens internally, invisibly, the investigator genuinely doesn't know it's happening. They think they're being thorough. They think they're being fair. The authority meant to find truth has become, without knowing it, the suspect's unwitting defense attorney. Now here's the case I mentioned, the one that changed FBI training protocols. A senior interrogator, over 20 years of experience, spent 11 sessions over 6 weeks with a man suspected of a series of financial crimes that had destroyed thousands of lives. By week 4, the suspect had confessed fully voluntarily. But the interrogator's subsequent reports began describing him as, quote, a man of genuine remorse and complexity. He began advocating internally for a plea deal. He challenged colleagues who pushed for prosecution. He visited the suspect between sessions outside a protocol to, quote, maintain the rapport. When supervisors reviewed the case, they found the interrogator had omitted 3 key pieces of evidence from his summary. Not destroyed, just never mentioned. He had no explanation. He wasn't corrupt. He was bonded. This is the part that experts still argue about. Was he manipulated by a skilled sociopath who knew exactly how to trigger empathy? Or did it happen organically? 2 humans in a room, one of them in pain, the other's brain doing what brains do? The answer, based on the psychological review, was both. The suspect was strategic, and the interrogator's neurology was exploited. Neither of those things cancel the other out. But the next part is what nobody talks about. This isn't rare. It isn't an aberration. Research on interrogation psychology suggests some form of investigator drift affects the majority of long-form confessional interrogations. The longer the contact, the deeper the confession, the greater the drift. The very conditions that produce truth also produce attachment. They're the same conditions. So what does this mean for you? Because this isn't just about interrogation rooms. This same mechanism runs in every relationship where one person holds authority over another. Therapists experience it. Lawyers experience it. Doctors. Managers. Anyone trained to listen deeply and without judgment will eventually face the moment their neutrality starts bending. And the people most at risk of being manipulated this way are the people with the most empathy, the most competent, the most experienced, not the rookies, the veterans. Here's how you recognize it in yourself before it costs you. First, notice when you start volunteering defenses for someone who hasn't asked for one. That's your brain in protection mode. Catch it early. Second, pay attention to what you're omitting, not what you're lying about, what you're quietly leaving out. The brain doesn't fabricate to protect someone it's bonded with. It edits. Third, and this is the one most people miss, genuine intimacy from someone with something to hide often feels like connection, but arrives too fast. Real trust builds slowly. If someone's confiding devastating personal truth within hours, ask why. The interrogator's brain fell for the oldest trick the human nervous system knows, the relief of being truly seen. The suspect offered that, and the brain took it. The open loop I planted at the start, the case that changed FBI training, the lesson they took from it wasn't interrogators shouldn't use empathy. Empathy still gets confessions. The lesson was, never let one person run a long-form interrogation alone. The bonding is inevitable. The check against it has to be structural, not personal. Your empathy is not a weakness, but it is a door. And some people know exactly how to walk through it. If this made you see your own relationships differently, that's the point. Follow for more of this. Like the video, so the algorithm shows it to someone who needs it. And tell me in the comments, have you ever caught yourself defending someone you should have questioned?